Okay, your son is blind and he attended mainstream school during his 10th grade year. You filed a state complaint with the Georgia uh, Department of Education to obtain timely, accurate braille at the same time that his peers received their work. We agreed to mediation and were able to obtain all the services needed. The process worked very well for us. Your son is now a junior in college, so this is multiple years later. And you've written a book about your experience. I'm curious if you can tell me the legalities of sharing our mediation discussions and outcome publicly. At the time, we were told that we could not share the convos or documents publicly because it would put our agreement at risk. It was also told that we could not use those discussions should we decide to proceed to a due process hearing, but we did not need to do that. Now that my son is out of school, is there any risk of sharing that information in my book to help other families through the process? Not at all. Share away. In fact, I think people overthink what these agreements are about, guys. They're one-sided. The IDEA is a civil rights law that is there to protect you and your child. It is an anti-government law in order to undo historical inequality and historical disenfranchisement and historical neglect that our public education systems have had on children with disabilities. All right? So it's an equalizer. There's also consent and privacy to where it's one way. You can sit there and sprinkle your child's IEP from a helicopter and give everybody a copy if you wanted to. The school cannot do that. It goes one way, once again. So when it comes to mediation, yes, if you were to go to hearing, the discussions you had in mediation, you couldn't bring up. That's what they mean by private. You know, that's where the confidentiality comes in, because you want to establish an environment to where the conversations had in your mediation couldn't potentially be used against you at a hearing. You didn't need a hearing. You got it done in mediation. So therefore, everything that they said about the confidentiality was moot because you didn't need it. You got a settlement. Now, with regards to the documents themselves, settlement agreements, mediation agreements only have about a lifespan of a year. Your son's now in college. And so you're way past that. And even at the time, unless there's some kind of provision where you agreed to keep things confidential, if there's not some kind of confidentiality provision in your agreement, then you're free to share it with anybody you want and highlight that as an example to help other families. There's no limitation there. But at the same time, I've agreed to stupid confidentiality agreements with my clients, and they've agreed to do it, but they're not enforceable. They're not enforceable in these agreements. These are administrative hearing decisions that are intended to rectify and correct problems for children. This is not a pro school. These agreements are not for the school. They cannot enforce these features against you. So if you have a confidentiality clause in your agreement, they can't enforce them. They can't. What are they going to do? They told people, you have every right to tell people. Once again, it's your child. FERPA, consent, privacy only applies to school. It does not apply to you. You can advocate for your child however you see fit. This is an anti-government piece of civil rights legislation that comes with some funding. The IDEA Special Education. It is a beautiful, beautiful law. One of the few things Congress has done right. All right? Glad you had a great experience and you advocated. Put it in your book. Teach, help, move that ball forward, pay it forward.